Yo, what is going on, B.S.S family? Me and Riddell are back at it again. One Piece reviews, straight into business. Uh, be sure to follow us on our Instagram, our Discord, YouTube, pretty much everywhere. Patreon, we got a lot of stuff going on. We make original content all of the time. We got Santos top tens. Me and Riddell watch Game of Thrones. Me and Random are reviewing some games. We got a lot of stuff going on that side of the things. Be sure to like, spread the word. Number one anime podcast on YouTube. We're pushing that prop. We're doing our thing. But we're back with what we came to do, which is talk about One Piece. And we got a pretty interesting chapter to say the least. I'm really surprised how Oda is really fleshing out not just Harold and Loki, you know what I'm saying? Their characters in this flashback. He's telling us everything. We're talking to Santo yesterday on Dojo about how if he doesn't show us God Valley here, it would be criminal because he's showing us everything. He's building up Roger, he's building up Gart, he's building up Rocks. He's pretty much gearing us up to that pivotal moment in the story. How are you feeling so far, Riddell, just in general, how Elbaf's been going, this flashback? What you feel?
I've been liking it. Rox is I'm surprised. Rox is the character I'm liking more than I thought I was going to. For sure. Obviously the crew is. We kind of knew the crew is going to be interesting. Crew's more interesting than I expected. It is good to see how a lot of them are in their youth. I do think it could potentially put a lot of puzzle pieces into the gaps of knowledge we have for legit all the Yonko. I'm not gonna lie. So hopefully we get a good amount for those. And it's interesting. You know what I noticed with Oda? Instead of Oda really just giving us a Gold Roger backstory, he constantly tells his story through other people. Because he's not gonna go out like JJK did with JJK Zero, where we got a whole story about who Utah is. No, you're going to get bits and pieces of the Pirate King through different arcs, and that's how you're going to learn who he is. And now we're even learning even a younger version of Roger than we've met so far. So pretty interesting. I'm liking it so far. I think this is an interesting backstory so far for me.
And I actually like that you brought that up. He's doing everything except showing us, what the point of the story is, which is Pirate King Roger. We get a little bit of him after, when he's sick, after he's accomplished his goal. Now we're getting all of the stuff that came before, and then, young pivotal figure surrounding that. But he's not giving us, as Chilltown would say, the meat and potatoes of, the One Piece story. Brilliant author. He always does his thing. Kicking right off from the beginning, we get a lot of the Kuja pirates. Now, I don't know if you got this implication. To me, this is before Amazon Lily has been established. It just seemed like they're just a band of roaming women, and they've just kind of formed their own pirate crew. So in this chapter, we get Gloriosa, who that's the one that's on Whitebeard's back in previous chapters. We get Shaki, who she's like the main one in this chapter. That's Rayleigh's wife, who people would probably remember from the bar and the ship coating restaurant. And then we get a lesser known queen. Her name is Tritoma. She kind of has the Nami bob cut kind of going for her. I'm not going to push that, but she has a little Nami bob cut going for her. But kind of cool to see. They were always just this roving band of pirate women who kind of just dominated the seas doing their own thing. Everybody kind of fans and fawns over them. And we were talking about it last night. So Riddell thinks that she kind of has a thing for Gabon, because there's this moment in the chapter where she basically...
He's talking about Shaki.
I'm talking about Shaki, by the way. Yeah. There's this moment in the chapter where she basically was like, Gabon, I love when you say my name. It makes me... And then she kind of cuts it off. Riddell, she want Rayleigh. And what makes me think that is when the narrator's talking about how all the men kind of fall in love with her, they fawn. It doesn't matter how powerful are you usually succumb. Gabon had succumbed first. He got punched or whatever. Roger comes next. She kind of stands over him with the Boa Hancock pose. Rayleigh is the only G in the building, Riddell. Rayleigh G'd up. He's posted. And it wasn't until she looks at him that he kind of breaks his reaction. But even then, he's not really fanned out or lost. He's more so shocked or terrified. How do you feel about the Kuja Pirates introduction in general, and push your prop for Gyaban?
No, after looking at it again, I'm with you. I do think Rayleigh's the one that stood out. The main reason why I brought that up is because we saw it in our Discord where people were pushing some weird Roger slander for some reason. And I think what we can say for certain is that Roger doesn't have a thing for Shocky. He wants her to join the crew for some reason, but he doesn't have a thing for Shocky. And just like how Gabon didn't have a thing for Shocky. So in this situation, Shocky does have a thing for Rayleigh. And it's interesting. I'm curious on so many aspects of the Kuja Pirates now. One, well, we can say for certain, Gloriosa was obsessed with Roger, just like Boa is obsessed with Luffy. So we could say that for certain. It does make, if you guys are Luffy Boa shippers, it makes us concerned because I'm one of those. I don't like Luffy and Nami at all. I think that's trash. The only one I see is Boa. And Roger did not.
I like him in Vivi, but continue.
Luffy and Vivi. I never really thought about Luffy and Vivi, to be honest. I don't know. I'd have to think, but aren't they? They're related, right? They're both D-Clan members.
They're not. They're D-Clan, but they're not related. They might be like 8th cousins.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think Oda doesn't want to touch that right there. I don't think Oda wants to touch that one. But yeah, the Kuja Pirates are interesting. Gloriosa having a thing for, and we also got a reveal of another Empress, future Empress of Amazon Lindley, and Shocky. And Shocky being this like top tier was unexpected as well. And I at first when I saw everything, because like even though Gloriosa is not as big time as Shocky, everybody is still like obsessed with both of them.
For sure.
And when we see Boa, I guess I didn't always assume it was because of her devil fruit, but a lot of it had to do with her devil fruit. So I'm curious to see, like, does either of them have the devil fruit, or is Boa the only one who's ever possessed the devil fruit? And then the biggest question, how the hell did Boa and her sisters get kidnapped by the Celestial Dragons? Like, how did that happen? So there's a lot of interesting lore, I'm sure. I feel like they're about to dive in with the Kuja Pirates than I didn't expect. It might actually, I'm going to throw this out. Because we got the Shocky reveal, we know who Shocky is. Big time, married to Rayleigh. We got the Gloriosa reveal. We already knew who Gloriosa was, right? She's on Amazon Lily. The fact that they introduced one more future Empress, traitor?
So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm not thinking traitor, but if we remember when they were talking about more of the Amazon Lily lore, how the Kuja Pirates work, and particularly the Emperors falling in love, and not being able to have that love be requited back to them, they fall upon a curse. So I believe what she could be is maybe a more modern example of that curse taking effect, or maybe the first person where that curse has taken effect, where they're not able to find the one or be with the one instead that they love. I thought it might have been Gloriosa. We kind of see her old and dried up. Something about the Kuja Pirates, it never struck me that they would kind of go out sad like that, as far as appearance and stuff, just from getting old. But I had always thought she could be linked to that curse originally, but we don't see anything from Tritoma. In the modern story, we got Boa, obviously, Shocky's around, and Gloriosa's old. She's the only one that was missing, and she was an Empress. I'm thinking maybe she couldn't find her love. She might have perished from the sickness that they brought up, or maybe she left with her love. Who knows where they're at? She could have just ditched. You know what I'm saying? That could be the traitor part you kind of mentioned. But for such a, I don't want to say minor, but for a lesser important faction to the overall story, they do have like their own little bit of lore that kind of revolves around them, which is, can further attest to Oda's mastery. Yeah, the Kuja Pirates are dope. I like them. And I hope they have a fruit. It'd be interesting to see the Mera be passed down to the different emperors.
Are you saying Gloriosa? Because it's very obvious she's obsessed with Roger right now.
Sure.
And I don't think they've hinted at Gloriosa being Ace's mom at all in the story.
No. His mom is named Rogue.
Oh, yeah, I do that. Yes. Right.
But it does seem like Gloriosa moved on to Whitebeard. because in the earlier chapter, Stussy and Gloriosa were actually fighting over Whitebeard. So she might have like set her eyes toward him. Because we also know Gloriosa joined the Rocks Pirates, so she's not even going to be with the Kuja anymore in that regard. So no, I'm pretty sure she switches to Whitebeard.
Which is the Whitebeard. I'm wondering though, do they get together ever?
Well,
because and we also have the thing with Weevil. It's like, yo, I don't know. This whole situation is with the Kuja Pirates is interesting now. Like looking at it with how they're going to be connected to a lot of very powerful people now. You think about it too, like Shocky, Rayleigh, Luffy, Boa, Gloriosa, Roger, then Whitebeard. This other girl had to be with another one too, to be honest. Miha?
Hey, I'm not mad at it, but oh man.
Shout out that man, bro.
Moving right along. So, in typical One Piece fashion, whenever these strong crews kind of come together, they all rob each other. In the flashback, in Oden's flashback, we saw the Whitebeard Pirates and the Roger Pirates rob each other. Here we're seeing, the Kujas are trying to rob the Roger Pirates vice versa. And they hear the Marines are coming. And, like any pirate crew, they're going to run. Roger gets word that it's Garp's ship. He immediately changes the plan. And this is kind of the first clash we kind of see between the two. And I'm with the Roger slanderous. Roger kind of got exposed here. If we look at the picture, you know what I'm saying? If we use our elite eye test, we see Roger getting his head knocked off here. He's getting punched right in the face. Garp chilling.
Okay.
I'll show the people at home too. I'll show y'all what I mean.
But I feel like because we're looking at it, you can show it. It does also look like Roger sliced him in his stomach.
I don't know about those.
So I think that's Oda knew what he was doing by making it very obvious that Roger got punched in the face.
Yes.
But Roger also got sliced. He made it obvious. And personally, I wouldn't be upset in a clash that there was times where Garp got the advantage over Roger.
For sure.
I think that's perfectly fine, to be honest. But it seems like he had a slash on the stomach because you see that like slash on Garp's stomach, that little action effect on his stomach. So
look like an impact, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, man. It's a draw.
For sure. I'm with you. All memes aside, it's definitely a draw. They just want to set the stage that they're equal. But they kind of mention him, or they mention them rather, in the same grain as Rocks, as the legends that kind of run the Great Pirate era. My question is, if it took both of them to beat Rocks, like, I get that there's a tri-legend here, but he was clearly the one above all. How powerful was Rocks? Like, beating the Admiral, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? That's cool or whatever. You see these guys up here. That's cool. But these are meant to be like the goats of the goats. So I'm wondering, how was he able to separate himself from these guys? They're already using advanced Haki in this photo. We've seen Garp in action on Hachinoso, saving Kobe and them. I really want to know how far Oda's going to take it as far as like showing us how strong Rocks is.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I think another way you can see it, because we've talked about it before, Roger might be like, how there's some NBA players that peak later on, like a Steve Nash, for example. Roger and maybe Garp could have just peaked later on, whereas Rocks would be currently, and it's because he's always fighting. Because, like we've said before, Roger doesn't become king of the pirates until way later in his time. And at that point, when you think about Roger, there's no one who can compete with him other than Garp. And Garp really doesn't stop him from becoming king of the pirates. I'm also curious, like, if Rocks is this powerful, because it's obvious he wanted to become this strong, and it's obvious he wanted to become this strong to take out the Holy Land in particular. When Garp and Roger went up against Rocks, did anybody help Rocks in that fight? I have a feeling Kaido probably didn't. Maybe Big Mom didn't, and I don't think Whitebeard didn't, or Shiki. Shiki didn't either.
Oh, hell no.
Maybe Stussy left. Probably Stussy left too. Some of the other ones, maybe.
Gloriosa, I think, left.
For sure.
Captain John, it seems like his whole gimmick is treasure. I'm pretty sure he left.
I agree. I think he left as well. Maybe. No, we don't think Harold was there, was he? Do you think Harold? All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that Harold stuff a little bit later.
Because I'm thinking, because when you started mentioning the crew members of what we know and what they've done in modern times and stuff, I feel like a lot of them just left. We know Wang Ji was the one that had Pirate Island, so it's clear he probably left Rocks and seized the island for himself. Captain John with the treasure. They might have just all abandoned ship, which is fucked up to think about. Unless, like you said, Harold came through, which is who appears next in the chapter. Loki, I guess off screen, was in a pinch, or he was drowning rather. He was drowning because a ship got capsized and he was, eventually saved. Harold, thanking the person that saved him, but it reintroduces the dynamic between Harold's kids, his first love, Ida. She's back in the story, and she loves Loki like her own son. Something that we typically don't see in most shows where there's like a bastard child or a royal child dynamic. She loves both the sons. She offers to, have Loki basically stay with them. Of course, Loki's heavily against it. Hadradine is heavily against it as well. And she's just a sweet, innocent mom, just comments on how they're cute. They get into their little scuffle or whatever. This is probably like the first little bit of like actual, like, I don't want to say important, but it shows a lot more of the character of Loki, Hadradine, and his and Hadradine's mom versus a lot of the Rocks pirates kind of stuff we've been seeing over the last couple of chapters. And Loki's really resolved himself with that weak and dirty thing. He doesn't think very highly of his country at all. I believe he does hold Harold in a high regard. But outside of that, he thinks the country kind of fucking sucks. And he really just wants to join the Rocks Pirates. Reminds me a lot of Luffy and Shanks. Luffy didn't disrespect people at Kokiyashi Village, but Loki really wants to get out of there. And I'm wondering, we know that Loki originally, like, he was at sea for a certain point of time. Shanks was the one that whipped his ass. I'm wondering what his crew looked like. Was he ever on Rock's crew, even for a short stint? There's kind of that little mystery blip there that I'm wondering if they ever touch. How do you feel about Loki and his brother, Hadradine, Ida? How do you feel about that whole situation?
It's interesting how we're kind of reaching this point, and we can make grandiose statements. Obviously, I made the statement beforehand that Harold might be the best king in One Piece so far.
For sure.
What's her name? What is the Hadradine's mom's name?
Ida.
Is she the best mom we've met in One Piece so far?
Probably, because all the other ones don't exist.
That's what I'm saying. This is interesting. And one thing that I feel like this kind of establishes that I'm curious to see later on, because I feel like I'm getting the sense that she dies at some point. Don't know what, but she's going to die at some point. And what caused her death? And will Loki care is the one thing that I'm curious about, because obviously she treats him like his own son. She loves him just like Hadradine. And another thing I'm curious about, since Harold cares about Loki, and Loki does pay attention to that, because we saw in last chapter when he got injured and he was surprised Harold came all the way back because Loki was injured. So Loki cares about Harold, but there's a block, emotional block for him to like receive love right now.
For sure.
So, and Harold's not there enough to give him love because he's like Naruto. He's always busy with politics. Hadradine's mother, he sees as beneath him already because she's probably already weaker than him as of right now. She's not a fighter. And because she's the bastard, and she's like the other mom.
Yeah.
Right? So Loki, but she treats him super well with love. So it tells me that Loki technically has received love before, but there's something blocking it. So Hadradine will have to do something very different or something in particular to finally snap Loki out of it. It's like, okay, I got to change your mindset. What will that be? It could be something as drastic as Hadradine dying. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. Hadradine Loki's dynamic, brother dynamic, is gonna be a big part of the story, and I'm very curious to see how they're gonna keep on developing that in particular. Hey man, Hadradine, big part. I'm surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised.
Riddell, you're surprised, but for everybody at home, Riddell was the only one that had Hadradine stocks. So he's getting some chips, man. I'm not investing yet. But Riddell, he got some chips building up. He's probably doubled or tripled on his original investment. So that's cool to see for sure.
For sure.
Moving along, we take us to Pirate Island. This is before it has the holes in the mouth that we see in modern times that Blackbeard currently has. We also get to see how that kind of happens. But the all-stars of the Rock Pirates have basically assembled together. So Big Mom, Kaido, we're going to get some new faces here. One of these new faces is Silver Axe. So he's kind of been one of the names synonymous with Rock's legend. We've seen his name before in panel. We've never seen how he looks. His design looks he looks sick. I'm going to show him real quick. This is Silver Axe. He looks fucking badass. And then we also learn that he's Shiki's rival. So he has to be of like a considerable strength because we know how strong Shiki was and who he was, regarded with, which is Roger, Whitebeard, things of that like. We also get Streusen. So if people remember Whole Cake Island, Streusen was the head executive chef. He's also Big Mom's oldest husband and Peril Sparrow's dad. He was also at the
crew. Oh, he's still. I didn't remember he was still alive at all.
Yeah.
No okay.
So he's the executive chef. He was the one where when the cake had got messed up on Whole Cake, they said he was the only one that could make them a new cake in time. And he's also Peril Sparrow's dad. He might be Katakuri, Oven, and Daifuku's dad as well. But we're not too sure. He is Peril Sparrow's dad, though. It's cool to see that this is kind of how the Big Mom Pirates kind of got it going. Big Mom met her first husband on the Rocks Pirates. He was probably a dog himself. I'm wondering, sticking with the role of like crew members, he was probably the chef of the crew. So it's good to see him. We get to see Captain John, and then we get to see that Rocks actually had a fishman on board named Babel. We really don't know much about him. We just get his name. His name is Babel. And then, we got the Whitebeards, the Kaidos, the Big Moms, things of that nature. And we're starting to learn about what would be Rocks' plan. Now, before I start describing his plan, I am 100% putting all of my chips in Loki joining the crew, and I'm going to explain why. So, for Rocks' grand plan, which was, being the king of the entire world, to do that, he needs to destroy the Holy Land first. The most important things that he said he needs are 2 fruits, and he needs the Galilei giants that were mentioned last chapter. When he's mentioning one of the fruits, he says he knows the location. He knows that it's on Elbath, and he specifically needs Harold to utilize the full capabilities of this fruit. Now, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Riddell. I believe Loki has consumed this fruit.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I believe Loki has consumed this fruit, and following along with the storyline of it being needed to destroy the world government, I believe that Loki will join the crew and kind of fight side by side in a major important role with Luffy. How do you feel about the devil fruit? And what do you think kind of happened with that whole thing with Harold and Rocks?
Yeah, I think this pretty much confirms that Loki has a fruit.
Yeah,
I'm very curious to see what it's probably a mythical zone. At this point, all the broken devil fruits are just mythical zones.
Have to be.
Is it as simple as like mythical zone, like something god related to Loki, or Odin? Do we have an Odin? We have an Odin in the story, right?
Yeah, Kozuki Odin.
Yes. Why are you using all the guys? Have we got a Thor? Do you think they're just going to call him a mythical zone Thor? Because he did have like a lightning ability when he hit the tree, and he has a hammer.
Maybe. So
hey man, maybe just give him Thor. It's fine or whatever. It also honestly, Enel stocks go down in the mud if they got a mythical zone Thor. Nobody cares about that Logia lightning ability anymore at that point. I'm not gonna lie. That is in the mud. Yeah, I think this is interesting because of I'm curious. Oh, I also agree that Loki's going to join the. I don't think he's going to join his crew. I think he's going to join his fleet.
The fleet. That
Yeah,
works.
I do think he's going to travel with Hajardine if Hajardine stays alive.
Sure.
So I think that's more than likely what's going to happen. Plus, we kind of already knew that he was going to be a part of the final battle because of the mural. It had Loki in there. It is interesting now how like all these mythical zones are going to be so important in this final battle. Like, what does that mean? Are we trying to insinuate that this is a battle of gods in the first place? That's why all these mythical zones are necessary in this fight. I don't know. And I also think they're kind of insinuating that the other fruit is Blackbeard's fruit, the darkness fruit.
I'm glad you brought it up. I agree. I think it's the darkness fruit.
Ah, man, I'm so curious to see Blackbeard's connection with Rocks once we finally get the full story of that kind of narrative. But yeah, Rocks' crew is looking pretty dope. We also got Baddie Big Mom back. I know everybody loves that, of course. Hopefully, we get a little bit more lore on why Big Mom's relationship with the Giants. And Keo the Wicked does look sick. I'm thinking he's the one who cut off Shiki's legs, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably makes a lot of sense. But he's the only one who got a single like moment though, where they are building it up. He was hidden, and then he showcased. He might be big. He might have a bigger role than we're expecting in the story.
Yeah, like establishing him as Shiki's rival, kind of he has to be. I don't know how he's going to bring all of these characters together and make it make sense. Like I don't know. I just don't know how he's going to do it. And interesting to note too, he looks very similar to Zephyr. So if anybody has watched the movie One Piece Film Z, his design looks almost straight ripped out of Film Z. He does look like Zephyr. Zephyr being the Marine admiral that trained the three OG admirals, Akainu, Kuzan, and Kizaru. So
something just clicked to my head.
What's up?
Could he be a Marine? And he's just here, like kind of like Aokiji in the sense that he's just watching them.
Yeah, maybe.
I think he has a Marine look, like for sure.
He does. He looks straight just like a Marine.
Okay, I'm interested because something's gonna have to go wrong with all of this, and I'm sure the Marines are not stupid enough to just let Rocks just do whatever he wants on this island.
For sure. Like in the whole abandoning crew idea, I mean, I guess it works because we've kind of established how the Rocks crew works. They kill each other, they don't trust each other, things like that. But that just seems too easy to me. This crew is way too unbeatable for me to believe that they just abandoned Rocks, no matter who was there. We haven't seen Garland fight. I don't think Garland was enough. Saturn's ass, respectfully. I don't think Saturn and Garland were enough. I know there were other Holy Knights. Based off what I've seen from Killingham and all of them, I'm just not really convinced that the crew will just up and leave. I think we're gonna get a lot more into what happened. And a theory that you brought up yesterday, I'm thinking there's a reason for all of this. There's a reason why Roger went on to be the Pirate King. I think there's more of a reason why Garp truly despises the Celestial Dragons and how he hates his title. Something went down that's not as it appears to be. Not the easy answer that we've kind of been given. But interesting.
I feel like you or someone else said it. I'm starting to think that there's some potential of Emu did take over Rock's body. I am starting to kind of believe that a little bit. Because when we're really thinking about everything what Rox is doing, yeah, the whole becoming king of the world thing is kind of unhinged.
Sure.
But he wants to take out Emu. Emu is the ultimate villain of One Piece right now. And you got to question, like, why would Roger and Garp help take out Rox in behalf of technically Emu?
Yeah.
maybe Rocks. It has to be like Rocks was corrupted or something like that. That's the only way it would make sense that something happened with Rocks in this kind of final battle. It also would make sense why everybody kind of left him at the same time too.
True. And then it had to have been something so extreme where Emu felt wiping the island out was like the only recourse. You know what I mean? Like it's clear that those games that they hosted, the games that Kuma and Ivankov were a part of, that seemed to be like a normal occurrence, but they never made it clear as to whether those games in particular were the reason why they wiped the island. But I'm with you. I think Emu was involved. Baby Rocks is possessed. And there's some theories floating around that man that we saw frozen and impelled down just might be Rocks. So a lot of mystery there. To add on to Rocks' already cool character, my stocks are rising. He's a good fucking dude, man. Kaido in true Kaido fashion, kind of shit talks Harold. We get to see that Kaido's always maintained his ideology since his youth, of power being the end all be all. Like he questions Rocks. Why are we trying to negotiate? Why are you just asking him? We can pretty much make anybody yield to our power. We have the strongest crew. To which Rocks kind of attacks him. Don't talk about Harold. That's my guy. He's like, yo, that's my friend. Don't talk about him. It's important we do this the right way. If you do it again, that's your ass. How do you feel about Rocks in general? He's seeming like a good dude. I think it's safe to say he's a good guy. I think he's a good guy.
The only reason why we think this is because he acts like Luffy. That's the only reason why we think this. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm becoming very skeptical of Luffy the last couple of weeks. Not that Luffy's a bad guy. I don't know if Luffy is a good guy. That's the thing. He's a weird character because he advocates for freedom, but we had this conversation before. Is he the person to free the world? Is it just as simple as him beating the bad guy and that's it? Or will he have to actually have the ambition to free the world for the sake of everybody else? Because Luffy does things based on how he feels, and that seems like Rox's character exactly right now. He likes Harold. He wants to take out Emu. This is all things that he just wants to do. Luffy's kind of similar. If he goes to your island, he will free you. All the other islands, he really just doesn't give a shit. That's just like only if Luffy cares about you will he help you. And in this story in particular, it's very obvious that you need something more than that to beat Emu. It has to be something more. It has to be like Joy Boy, who they're kind of building Joy Boy as like the arbiter of freedom, where he has an intentionality to free everybody from everything that's going on. So seeing Rocks being very similar to Luffy in this retrospect, I think that says more about Luffy than it does Rocks.
I didn't think about that. Interesting. I'm not mad at it. Interesting. To end off the chapter, we kind of get like the double cover spread that Oda's famous for, and it's just the Rocks Pirates. This is the full formation of the crew. And Rocks kind of basically says, if you don't believe in what I got going on, y'all can go ahead and take a hike. But if you follow me, I'll take you to the summit of the world. Very ambitious. When it gets animated, I don't know if the manga does it justice. I feel like that's going to be a top quote when it's animated, how they, create that scene. And we're here. This is the Rocks Pirates. They're ready to go. No, I don't think we're going to get a whole bunch of exploits or, like what they did. Maybe important stuff like the hunting of the 2 devil fruits. Maybe some more information on those giants. But I think for here, we're probably going to shift more so back to Harold and what he has going on. How do you think about the chapter? And then what do you think about what's next? Where are we going?
Oda is weird to me. And this is kind of a little minor thing. It's all right. We can say for certain that Rocks is a swordsman. So Roger's a swordsman.
Yep.
Rocks is a swordsman.
Yep.
Shanks is a swordsman.
Yep.
Well, why does it feel like you don't care about swordsmen? Like all your big wigs, Garland's a swordsman. Like all your big wigs are swordsmen. It's like it just feels like you don't care about swordsmen at the same time. I'm curious to see if Oda's finally going to make the aspect of being the world's strongest swordsman matter in One Piece.
For sure. Mihawk clearly wasn't around during this time. I'm wondering if there was a world's strongest swordsman, then, and who they were, what were they doing. But I agree with you. He's way too intentional, excuse me, about keeping a swordsman in a high space. Even if you think about our modern times, we have a swordsman admiral. We have two swordsman elders now. We have two of them. So I think every crew has a pretty decent, competent swordsman we've seen so far. We got King. King and Cracker are swordsmen. We got Zoro, obviously. Pika was a swordsman. Daz Bones was a swordsman. So it's like, bring it full circle, Oda. You're showing us all this shit, and you're saying that we can't have it. Just bring it full circle. Dive into why these sword divisions matter. What does it mean to get a black blade for real? You don't have to show us Mihawk to tell us. Why hasn't anybody else been able to achieve it if it is that important? Really build out that part of the power system out. Because I do think they have their own little system that they abide by, as we've kind of seen with like Zoro and the Enma situation on top of the rooftop. It's only a matter of when, and I think we're coming soon.
And if people's theories about Rocks having Buggy's fruit is true, and he's an elite swordsman, that could be broken as hell. That could be deadly right there. So I'm curious to see how they kind of showcase how Rocks in particular fights moving forward. But we'll see. Overall, chapter is good. I think the chapter is good. Rox's crew looks pretty dope, not gonna lie.
Would you stop the flashback here if you were the author, or would you keep going?
It's crazy because once we go back, we like the emo stuff is equally as crazy right now.
Yep.
So it's like, what do you want to flush out more, Rocks or emo right now? And these are your two biggest like villains that you built up in One Piece. Oh man, it really depends on what Oda is trying to prove with this. I would keep going because we have to find out what happened to Harold.
I agree. So you'd have to keep going. And then also Blackbeard kind of working in reverse. I'm in line of thinking that Rocks either got the devil fruit from Harold, or I feel like he got his hands on it, or at the very minimum saw it, and he couldn't get the other one. And it's looking like Blackbeard got the other one. And it's also kind of given, he to his intention. He sat for 40 years waiting for that fruit to appear. Blackbeard's interesting, man. We got to get his backstory. Did Harold, was it as simple as, Aaron's dad? Yo, I left it in the basement. You find the basement, here's the instructions. Or does he really inhabit Blackbeard's body? It's going to be crazy to see, but Blackbeard, to me, the more I get from Rocks, the more interesting Blackbeard is to me and what he has going on. So, no, I think it was a good chapter.
I agree. And then it also ties into like, why did Whitebeard basically adopt Blackbeard in the first place? What is going on with that relationship? And then Blackbeard went so black-pilled that he was more than willing to kill Whitebeard to take his fruit. And kill Roger's son too at the same time with Ace.
Now that what if one of the fruits was the one that Whitebeard has?
I mean, it's supposed to be the strongest paramecia. That's what they said. Like it could destroy the world.
Yeah, so the strongest paramecia and the strongest Logia? Maybe.
There's a lot of questions when it comes down to this because Rocks, how he does things, and Blackbeard, how he does things. Are they going to make Blackbeard justified?
I believe so.
How would you feel about Blackbeard being just okay? If they made Blackbeard justified, that's another reason why Luffy needs to level up, not in strength, in
ambition. Yes, I agree.
Because how are you going to challenge Blackbeard without it?
So my thing is, it's whatever Luffy's true dream is. I think that matches up to what Blackbeard's dream is, because we still don't know what Luffy really wants. Whenever Luffy has gone on to say it, it's always been bleeped out, and everybody just laughs. So I'm assuming that ambition is going to be on par with Blackbeard's. it's more so about the focus of like honing in on that. I'm gonna be honest, and I felt this way through a lot of One Piece, maybe up until like the Marineford time skip. This crew's kind of really just coasting along. And Gabon kind of hinted at that, to Zoro. He's like, yo, you don't even know you got Conqueror's Hockey. Like, what are you doing? So I don't think it's really a matter of ambition. I think everybody has high goals. I just think it's more so in being intentional and actually striving to achieve those goals. It's clear Blackbeard is striving to achieve something. He's making elaborate plans, he's sticking to a script, and he's pretty much hitting every single time he goes after something. And he's not going out of his way doing extra stuff. It kind of just seems like Luffy is luckily stumbling along the right path, just doing what he feels. So I ultimately think that's going to be the separator.
I 100% agree. And the only time where they officially like really locked in was the time skip.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw how much all of them grew individually because of it. So we might need another situation where they gotta fall for real to really okay. What are we truly trying to do in this One Piece universe? What is the grander ambition? We got to get there for Luffy and his crew for sure. I think Zoro is developing slightly though, in terms of like I need to really start. Luffy, lock the fuck in.
And to me, he's always been the one. I don't know if you agree. I think he's always been the one that's been ahead of the curve. On Water 7, yo, we're pirates. We're not kids. Like, he's always kind of known, but sometimes you need a teacher. I don't know what Mihawk... Listen, my Mihawk stocks is at an all-time low. What were you teaching the man? What were you teaching him?
Man. I stand by he Mihawk unlocked it by accident. But overall good chapter. I got shout out, man. Do no break? Do we know?
It doesn't say there's a break, but I could have sworn there's a Shonen Jump break next week.
Oh well. GG's for that. I guess the last thing, since I'm gonna ask you, have we got any mention of Captain John? Because he was heavily featured in this chapter as well.
The only time somebody did mention him, I don't remember who, and then we actually saw him on Thriller Bark. He was one of Moria's corpses. So,
right,
yeah,
I remember.
He was one of Moria's corpses. So, pretty important. Nobody's found his treasure, whatever that is. I don't know if it'll be a pivotal plot point, but it'd be cool to see. We know he was a treasure hoarder, and he wasn't killed in battle or anything. His own crew betrayed him. So,
damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Appreciate everybody for checking this video out. Once again, we pretty much do these One Piece reviews whenever they drop once a week. Yeah, we thank you guys for coming out. Be sure to like everything we got going on. Discord, Linktree for all of our links, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon. We do a lot of original content there. And until next time, we'll see you soon.